Welcome and thank you for coming along tonight to the Next Gen series, the first for 2014. My name is Diana Heatherich and I'm the Senior Project Officer for La Trobe Asia at La Trobe University. We're very proud to be co-hosting this event with Asialink and Roy Morgan Research.
This evening, Asialink Business is pleased to present two speakers and one moderator who are all experts in China. I'll introduce each of these in a row and then invite Antony as our first speaker. Mr Antony Dapiran is a partner with Davis, Polk and Wardwell and resident in Hong Kong, so we're very lucky to have him with us this evening. His practice focuses on security offerings, private equity and cross-border mergers and acquisitions. Our second speaker, Mr Morry Morgan, is founder of ClarkMorgan Corporate Training, author of Selling Big to China and publisher of China's largest bilingual human resources magazine, Network HR, and which there are copies of at the table. Finally, to our moderator, Ms Julia Gong, who is Director of the Confucius Institute at the University of Melbourne.
Well, as we all know, China has developed remarkably over the last 30 years of opening up and reform. And China's problems have moved from those initial fundamental problems that they may have experienced 30 to 40 years ago of basic poverty alleviation, providing food and shelter for their population. And these days, the government is more concerned with resolving problems that would be more familiar to us or to other developed world countries. Issues like healthcare, quality and affordability of healthcare, food safety and hygiene, housing affordability, environmental issues are obviously very prominent recently, and of course government corruption as well. So the lessons for foreign business in China, I think firstly, take compliance seriously. China rules are no longer the way to play. You have to have a robust internal compliance function. Think about your policies, your procedures, make sure that you're complying with the law and make sure that there are appropriate mechanisms in place to ensure that occurs. The second aspect you need to get right is people. You need to get the right people and treat them right if you want them to behave right. And you really need to work to build corporate loyalty and build a global company culture and to really integrate the people in your China operations into your global operations. And I know that Morry will be talking more about the people angle shortly. The third issue I think that foreign companies need to learn is learning to get government relations right in China. I think in the past, foreign companies have regarded government relations in China as being merely a matter of taking the local mayor out for a banquet every now and again and perhaps organising some study tours overseas for groups of influential officials. But that's not what government relations is all about. Companies need to understand who the local officials are and what their policy concerns are, what's their policy agenda, how does your company and its business fit into that policy agenda, and what are the potential investigation or enforcement priorities for those local authorities, and how are you mapped against that, and are you in a position to comply with that? And then lastly, public relations and media relations needs to be taken seriously in China. In the past, China didn't really have an active media, and that's very much not the case now. I know
that. I do a lot of work with big companies, Rio Tinto, BHP Billiton, all the big names, and all the big names that you may not know. If you look at the skyline of Shanghai today, and Beijing for that matter, there's a lot of multinational business names that you may never hear about. Here they're all banks or in insurance companies, but over in the US, over in Shanghai, Beijing, they could be construction companies, transportation companies, logistics firms, computer companies that you may never have heard of. Look, China isn't yet the largest GDP, but it could have been the largest GDP about 20 years ago if the efficiency of the average employee was higher. And let me quote some facts here. So here's the Hay Group talking about engagement levels. Mexico ranked highest, China ranked equal third alongside the UK. And anyone who's lived in the UK knows that engagement levels are pretty poor, and if you do get a good customer service, it's probably an Australian. We asked a group of HR professionals in China. We said, who's responsible for engagement within your organisation? Who's responsible? And interestingly, only 10% said it was the individual employee.
Thank you. And now,